every moment I've been in a real racetrack, I have the sensation that I'm being judged.
So he's like, "Hey, Cameron, you want to drive a car?" I was like, "When? Like 4 days? Where is it? Canada? Okay. Sure. Let's do it."
You're pretty much my competition. Like, like I'm watching you and it's like, okay, so he's doing this and that. Like, I have to improve my content. I remember the first time I saw your channel, I was biased to think that it was not good. Oh, he's got 70K and my videos are better. My videos should get more views and stuff. I had that first impression because it was competition.
All right, guys. Well, welcome back to the podcast. Here with me is Suellio. We're in his apartment in Montreal, so we have a bit of a travel pod this time around. So Suellio and I, this is weird because Suellio and I have become friends online, and this is the first time we're meeting, flying across the world to basically meet each other for the first time. But it's so funny. Like, there's so much we have in common, both in the content creation side, the sim racing, and now he's in real life racing as well. So there's a lot to talk about, really.
And it's funny that like 7 days ago you did not know you were coming to Canada.
No,
too.
yeah. We have to tell this story because this is insane. So Suellio, okay, so if you don't know about Suellio, he's a sim racer, he's a coach, he's won esports competitions like very high level, like, probably top 250 in the world you'd say on iRacing probably. So yeah, super high level, but he's used that to transition into real life motorsports. And, he's encountering the same challenges that I have, especially on the funding side. So, he's gone to coaching and, he's diversified his business. So it's not just esports that he relies on to drive a real car. But that content creation side of things has brought him some pretty cool opportunities. So he actually drove the car I won a championship in, the Formula 4 car in Miami this past weekend. And for him to be able to do that, he had to give up his seat in the Subaru BRZ run by Apex at Shannonville, which is a track here in Canada. So he's like, "Hey, Cameron, you want to drive a car?" I was like, "When? Like 4 days? Where is it? Canada? Okay. Sure. Let's do it." And so here we are.
I would never expect you to accept right away. It worked out so well.
Yeah,
that was perfect.
I really appreciate you reaching out to me for that because I think it's gonna make some cool content.
And we're recording tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
So we're gonna
I'm
see.
gonna dive in and send you to all.
Yeah,
for sure.
Let's dive. Hey, electric indoor carts. That's my territory. Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna see. But yeah, I mean, let's start with like where you got started, because you definitely didn't have the traditional route into motorsports. I mean, we can see where, now you're in real life motorsports, and we know you came from sim racing, but I wouldn't even say you had a traditional en route into sim racing either. So tell us about how that started.
And it's funny the way you say it, because it really makes me like realize how every moment I've been in a real racetrack, I have the sensation that I'm being judged, because everyone is looking at me and pointing at me. That guy plays video games. That guy is a sim racer. Let's see if he can actually like deal with the real thing. So there's always a little bit of pressure from real life because of that. And it's always, right now I'm more and more used to real life. So I think that initial doubt is starting to fade a little bit. Still there though. Still probably gonna be there for a long time. But yeah, I started pretty much with racing games. Always been my passion. Playing with like toy cars on the ground and playing Gran Turismo 1 and watching Formula 1 just for the crashes when I was a kid on Sunday mornings. So it's always been my passion. And I really did not expect that 20 years after having like a career in piano, I would figure out that I was actually pretty good with like teaching people and helping people go faster. I think it's really connected. My piano technique, my career, my obsession by learning how the brain works really spilled over the way I tackled sim racing and trying to just learn as best as possible, as efficiently as possible. And that literally brought me where I am today. Literally, this is the city here, Montreal. I'm here because of piano, but I stayed here mostly because of racing. And now I'm traveling all over Canada racing. Just went to Homestead, Miami for the first time racing the US. somehow I got a P2 there, I got a podium, and that's it. I just keep expanding, keep like figuring out like more and more people want to share this passion and trying to help people more and more. I think that's the value that I have to offer right now. Not necessarily being like the fastest driver, but being the driver head that can offer the most to
Mm-hmm.
others.
Yep.
And that's definitely my pursuit right now, is to get the to have the biggest influence, technically speaking. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know you know very well like that I'm kind of like the crazy guy who invents concepts and
Mm-hmm.
terms to try to make people understand better
Yeah.
things that will help them drive faster.
I mean, one of those terminologies that I've mentioned in my videos before, but he has this term called maximum rotation point, which is the point in the corner. Well, obviously, where there's the maximum rotation, but it's something that like we would talk about a lot, between me and my engineer, but we wouldn't have a term for it. Like there's a difference between an apex, like everyone knows what an apex is in a racing line, but a lot of times where you're actually doing the most rotation in the corner isn't at the apex. And even though it's something that like people know about, just having a terminology to it immediately puts it at the forefront in your mind as you're driving, and it totally can change how you approach a corner. So like stuff like that, where you almost rewritten the book on motorsports when it's been so.
I'm literally writing a book, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'll
late
definitely
this year.
read it because I'm sure I'm going to pick up a few things or two. Like actually, even on the coaching front as well. Swellio's been in a couple of videos on my channel already, and so the first one we did, you coached me. And I think it's real testament to your coaching skill because you picked up on stuff that I didn't see, right? Like, and you're just watching like on a low res Discord call, right? And you're able to see like just minute steering inputs that I was doing, which were really bad for the 992 Cup car, which we were driving. But you immediately noticed the habits I had from Formula driving that didn't work for the Cup car. And then on the flip side, then you coach my girlfriend B, who has no racing experience whatsoever, no sim experience either, and you were able to basically not put her under all this pressure like I do, and and you guided her through her first ever official race on iRacing with no experience, and at one point she was running in the podium right in that race. So it's a real testament to your like it's not just a driving ability, but it's a fundamental understanding vehicle dynamics and also how the brain works in a race car, which is it's impressive.
Yeah, I think you went to a point that is important to me. It's very easy. Not it's not easy, but like one way is to describe what happens with the car
Mm-hmm.
and how things work. There's a lot of people, especially like on the comments in my social stuff, like on my Instagram and my YouTube, that they can describe very well the dynamics of the car with technical terms and stuff. And I see a lot of my students uh explaining how things work and how downforce works and how like just how the weight transfer how the weight transfers, and they can go in such detail, but then they
Mm,
drive and I see that they're not feeling it. They're
yeah.
not feeling it. Like no matter how well you can describe something, if you're not converting that into a physical sensation
Mm-hmm.
that you can manage precisely while driving, then job is not completely done. You have
Yeah.
to convert that into that feel. And that's why sometimes when I'm coaching like kids who are like 8 9 year old, um
Coaching 8 and 9 year olds.
yeah,
Oh,
sometimes 7, yeah, it's like I
wow.
think my youngest one was 7. uh One of my youngest students was 8 when we started. Now he is 12, 13.
Wow.
It's been a while.
Sim
Yeah,
racing at 7,
sim
8, 9.
racing,
That's
yeah. So
unbelievable.
basically parents realized that I was coaching a lot, and I mean, I pretty much exploded in the coaching side. It's been crazy. And then a lot of parents actually say, hey, like, I want you to coach my son. He's doing
Yeah.
karting right now. And I have to figure out a way to teach these kids
Mm-hmm.
without using extremely technical terms. I actually don't really like using technical terms, even for the most advanced drivers,
Mm.
because the technical explanations are available everywhere. But my value is to actually figure out a way to connect that to a feeling,
Yeah.
connect that to a physical sensation. So sometimes I remember explaining under shear to these kids, and I say, so if you ask too much from the tires, they're not gonna be able. They're gonna cry. They're gonna be like, no, I can't. Sorry. But like just these like easy digestible
Yeah.
ways to explain things. Um, they help a lot. They help you to reach that feeling in the car that's more valuable, because as soon as you can do naturally, or you can do instinctively connect with the car, every other next explanation that is more technical will make more sense and will only add up. It will only add up to whatever you already feel.
Yeah.
But if you try to do the other way around, like to get a very technical explanation and then try to convert that into a feeling, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So my way around teaching technique is always going from the simplest feeling, and then when it starts working, then I add the physical explanation to complete.
Yeah.
It's much more efficient.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I think also on the coaching front as well, just the ability the ability for you to identify someone's thought process as well, because I think it's not even just like it's not even like a skill level or an experience thing. It's also just some people just approach a corner differently, or approach, like, maybe it's even approaching life differently. Like, it's a personality trait. Like, I think some drivers are slow to maybe pick up the pace. Like, they know exactly what they're doing, but they take their time to reach that point. And some are just like, they go over the limit first and then dial it back. And what I've noticed from watching a lot of your coaching sessions is you try and you identify which type of driver they are first, and then you adapt your coaching style to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I try in the same coaching session 3 different explanations, but it's actually the same thing. And it's funny because most of the time the student doesn't realize that I'm actually explaining the same thing, just using different words. Sometimes I try something, it kind of doesn't work, so I stop them. Okay, now let's try something different, like as if it's something different, but it's like really the same thing, and then it works. So and then I realize, okay, that is the path I should follow. And then from there, I just start like reinforcing their learning styles, and then maybe creating some bridges to some explanations that they might know, that might not know, just to make them like a more complete driver. But yeah, you have to understand how they work, so you can really like benefit from their learning style first.
The reason that impresses me a lot is because I've had a lot of coaches like throughout my career, and like, I've learned something from every single one of them, but like, no, I don't think I ever ran into someone who was as adaptable at like just adjusting their style to me. It was more I had to adjust to like their style more than anything, and that's why there's sometimes was friction between some of the coaches I had, because it just didn't work. And in that case, you can't do as many laps, and you have less data to go off of, and all sorts of things in IRL as well. But that's I think what makes the difference between you and a lot of other coaches, which, yeah, like I said, it's impressive. But what I do want to talk about as well, and this is something that we've really resonated on, I think, when we first started talking to each other, is you've gone down this content creation route. I think that comes a lot from the difficulties of esports, and the well, what it takes to be really truly competitive is a lot of time. And so you've gone down this content creation route to basically fuel your business and allow you to do real life motorsports. So tell me a little bit about why, and what that journey's like.
It was actually a lucky shot. Like I don't think I at any point decided to transition to content creation, and then stopped the or like slow down the more competitive side. I was doing both at the same time. So
Right.
I never really, okay, no, this is not working, I'm gonna try something else. I was doing everything at the same time. I was trying different bits here. I was trying YouTube, Instagram. I was trying coaching, and then I was trying joining a stronger team. Now I'm racing for Tony Kanan's team.
Yeah.
And I was trying maybe qualifying for PASC. I remember in 2021, I was actually qualifying for World Championship, like not PASC Canada, the PASC worldwide. And I've done 33 hours in 1 week, and I did well. I finished P13, which is actually enough. If I finish P13, on all 5 weeks, I think, of the qualifier series, I would get in the world championship.
Right. Okay.
And that would be possible with those 33 hours. But I was like, wow, that's a little bit too much.
Mm.
I don't feel like I want to practice that much. There's so much I can do. I was already coaching a lot back then. I was still doing my master's degree. I was just like, no, I want to do more. I don't want to only drive. I feel like I want to expand. So I always had this mentality of trying a little bit of everything. And then eventually some things started giving me more results, or more opportunities
Yep.
to actually do this for a living. So it was a gradual transition. It was never a hard decision. I never do like hard decisions. I try stuff. Whatever works, I keep going, and whatever is not like um sustainable, I start like slowing down a little bit. So I'm consistently, even today, maybe a week from now, I'm gonna be doing something different, but I'm consistently trying stuff, trying to get better at everything, and then whatever is working more, I double down.
So what was the hardest thing, like when you started making videos? What was the first thing that you're like, how do I do this?
Good question, because I'm a little bit like, just send it,
Mhm.
I was trying. I was not like afraid of making mistakes, so I would actually just post it. I was just like creating, streaming, and trying different things, and whatever did not work, I stopped.
Mhm.
It's kind of like a little weird kid mind where I'm not like afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah.
So I can't right now just remember what was more difficult, because I'm just all over the place. I'm all over the place. Like, if you see my routine, there's no routine. Some, like, maybe on a Sunday I get this idea, I'm gonna make a whole video. I spend like 25 hours in 2 days making a video, and then I want to spend 10 hours practicing to farm for my rating. Then I'm spending like 3 days coaching. So I'm all over the place. I'm doing a little bit of everything. I think I identified that it's very difficult if you want to go full time only as an esports driver.
Yeah.
I see the struggle like is real, because it's not only to get there on the lap times, it's just stay there.
Yeah.
If you if you stop practicing for like 3, 4, 5 days, you see your level goes down,
Mm.
and other people are gonna pass you easily. So I think it's just a matter of like, whatever you choose, you have to grind. You have to go for it. You have to be focused. You have to be disciplined. Um, so I noticed that whatever the domain within motorsports, if it's content creation, if it's coaching, if it's practicing for esports competition, if you don't grind it, if you don't like go for it and like become obsessed with it, the results are not gonna show up.
Yeah.
So I think that's the closest I can say.
Probably the philosophy for life, really.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly.
Not just sim racing, but yeah.
Yeah. Because if you think like just like working out, it's gonna be difficult for everyone, but whoever does it the best will win the marathon. So it's about like how hard can you like deal with the struggle of it, the pain of it. So
do you remember what your first viral video was? Because you were doing Instagram Reels, like I was at the same time, I think.
Yes. So it was actually funny because I was posting horizontal videos on Instagram, and they were always like 5K, 6K, 5K, 6K, a lot of videos. And then I decided to study a little bit the algorithm, like how can I get more views? And then I started like reading about this Reels thing. So I decided to post Reels, and then they had to have a specific format, and how do they go viral? And then I started studying, and then finally I decided to actually make a vertical video with more quality, and actually edit very well, instead of just like take it from like streams and stuff. I actually made a video that was the purpose of it, like becoming a short video, teaching things. And then I made like just a comparison of braking between the GT car versus a Formula car, and then I just like put the telemetry and showing that like on a GT car you can brake and maintain, versus a Formula car where your initial spike is actually higher because of the extra downforce. So it's just that. So I think it was like 7 seconds video, and as soon as I posted that, instead of like 5K, 6K views, I got like 1 million views, and that was insane. Like insane how you go from 6,000 to 1 million. And then I doubled down on that because I saw that worked. And like from there, I just got, yeah, it was insane. It was almost not real. To see the graph of views growing up, I figured out that that's what people really wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted to learn, so I started doing more and more and more comparisons and more technical stuff, but really like trying to keep people intrigued. And that's where I realized, wow, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
I realized that some of the most basic things for me as a professional coach actually are new and are advanced and are interesting to a lot of people who want to get into the sport. So I started like focusing on that side. Okay, how can we introduce new concepts that might seem basic to me, but actually are super valuable to most people?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Like a lot of people struggle with like, where do I get started? What content do I actually make? But the truth of the matter is, like, if there will be an audience for whatever you make. It might be a smaller audience, might be a bigger audience, but like just post something. And it's also, the algorithm is not rocket science. I think you'll probably agree with this as well. But if you just make engaging content that has a reason for someone to watch from the beginning to the end, the algorithm, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, they'll pick it up and they'll show it to people. It's not any more complicated than that.
Yeah, I think there's a video that I saw on YouTube some months ago when I was studying like how to make better videos, and the guy said, "Forget the word algorithm, replace it to audience."
Yeah,
It's basically the audience. So it's not the algorithm that is ignoring your account, it's the audience that is
psychology.
ignoring. Exactly. Why are people ignoring your content? You have to figure it out. Because I think the most, okay, that's a challenge when you're creating content, is that you're incredibly biased to like your own content. And you think it's good. You think it's amazing. But then like if you try to like remove yourself from the equation and watch it almost like in third person, which is pretty much impossible, but
Mm,
you when you try to make this like thought experiment, you start at least noticing some bits here. Like, I don't know, edit a video that is like 30 minutes long. Do you even like, you will you watch it like the entire video, or will you get bored? And
mm.
if you get bored at your own video,
Yeah, someone else
don't
will.
post it, or just cut the boring part and post the bit you like.
Yeah.
So that's the mentality. It's like trying to remove your bias from when you're watching the video, to see if it's really really interesting to others, before you as a guide, as overall guide to whatever content you're going to create.
Did you notice a big shift in like your strategy when you went from short form to long form content?
Not really, actually. I think it's just short form content for me is like a portfolio. It's like, hey, here's the front of the house. It looks beautiful, but like if you want to see more, you have to get in the house and do the tour. So it's just like the first step. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people will see my shorts because you're scrolling a lot more quickly, and you can see like in a span of 10 minutes you can see, I don't know, dozens of shorts. But if you're just watching one video, then that already takes all your 10 minutes, right? So if you're like on those 10 minutes and you don't know me, you're gonna see me sometimes. Oh, that's kind of interesting, and then from that you create like an initial connection that's very
Mm.
very just spark. And then when you actually see the long format video, you're already gonna be okay. I will like, I might want to watch because he had a little short that I saw like a few days ago that actually helped me. And then that is the second level where the person, I always say the driver, well, the driver
Mm.
will see the video for longer because he already knows that that's gonna be valuable. So I think shorts is the portfolio, long format is like the tour of the house. And then you can go even to live streams, it will be like the third
Yeah.
area too. But I mean, shorts and long format is already pretty much the main thing.
Yeah, I think what shifted my primary focus from shorts to long form was, I saw some video. It was probably a short that I saw this in, but they said, "Can you remember the last 5 long form videos you watched?" And the answer was like, "Yeah, I think I can watch. I can remember." "Can you remember the last 5 TikToks you watched?" And it's like, damn, like I can't even remember one. And so I was like, you know what? I'm spending all this time. Sure, I get millions of views, but are any of these people really connecting with me at all? And the answer is, Yeah, a little bit, because then when I started posting long form, there was some conversion, but it's not like it's a small percentage relative. But so it's great for generating that bigger audience and widening the fan. But ultimately, if you want to build a real connection with an audience and be able to monetize it and everything, you got to make longer videos that show personality as well.
Yeah.
So have you been comfortable with? Were you instantly comfortable with being on camera? I know you speak with people one on one a lot with the coaching stuff, but was that a shift as well to be on camera, to be you know, broadcasted to the masses, I guess?
I think it was just like everything very slow. I've been streaming for a long time actually. I started like streaming on iRacing in Portuguese a long time ago. I had
Oh
long
wow, okay.
hair. Yeah, I have some of these
So
videos
it's not your
unlisted
first
in the
rodeo,
no.
huh?
No, it's been a while. And it was I was always a little bit like I mean, as a concert pianist, you're on
That's
stage.
true. Yeah,
There's thousands of
yeah.
people. Like you get on stage, like, and you have to bow to everyone. You just see there's thousands of people right there, and they're in silence, waiting for you to play.
Mm.
So the amount of pressure there at every second, every blink of an eye, people are seeing it. If I breathe wrong, if I walk wrong, people are seeing it. So I was built with this pressure since I was young, playing piano to a lot of people. So I'm a lot more prepared to just like looking in the eye and talking and just doing whatever because I'm used to it. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been developing this. Just not being shy, too shy. I don't know
Yeah.
how you call it. There is a stage fright for being on the camera as well, but
I would have
it's a
never guessed
preparation.
there was that much of a, or that there was anything that you brought over. I mean,
Oh
maybe
my god, all of it,
really.
all of it. The technique side, the development side, the discipline side,
Yeah,
the stage
yeah.
fright, the competition side, the
Competition.
competition. I have I've done 10 or 11 or 12 international and national piano competitions.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know you were doing it competitively.
Yeah, it's super competitive.
Oh,
People
interesting.
like some musicians will say competitions are silly because
Hmm.
in music you don't have to win.
Yeah.
You have to move people. You have to like you have to create emotions that's different, but still to encourage kids to improve their techniques in the piano, violin, whatever
Hmm.
instrument, they create competitions, which ends up creating some toxicity
Hmm.
because now the kids they want to win, they want the first prize, right? So now they want their little friends to make mistakes. If they make mistakes on stage, they're going, yeah.
This sounds like it needs to be a TV show. Like there should be a Drive to Survive of competitive piano.
There
Like
is. Yeah,
really?
there's an anime called Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso. It's like a very 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 famous because it shows like kids in competitions and how their parents were super harsh with the kids. Like you have to win this competition, you have to study, you cannot play
Wow.
video games, and like it shows like the dark side of competitive music. So
Oh, it's not
yeah,
that far off
there's a whole
motorsports in
side to
some
that.
cases. Yeah, so that's interesting, the parallels there. I would have never guessed. Absolutely would have never guessed. Okay, so let's transition back to the real life motorsports, because the first thing that you drove was, I think, was a Cayman, right? Apex's Cayman was the first car you
It
drove?
was the FRS. It was the Subaru
That
BRZ
was the first car you
or
drove.
the GT86.
Yeah.
The
So
three models are the same car.
describe to me the first time, you come out of sim racing. We all know that there's a lot of parallels, but what were the things that like just didn't click immediately in the race car?
I already expected things to not click actually. Like I think my the word is openness. I got into the car ready to absorb new experiences. I did not expect to go fast because what I wanted was to be humble and to just absorb that experience, adapt, and then from there develop. So that's pretty much what happened. Of course, there's like the muscular memory that like just like kicks in right away, and you do whatever you were doing all your life in the sim racing.
Hmm.
But as soon as I started like adapting to it, it felt good. I think that's the word. Like I was thinking about openness. That's what everyone should always think about. Is like be open to learning stuff. If you try to if you want the car to drive fast, it's not gonna be the best way. Like because if you just do whatever, but you want the car to go fast and to do the corner the way you want to, you might not communicate with the car perfectly. But if you try things, if you talk to the car and then figure out what the car wants, so that now you can like communicate and like really like be at one with the car, then you start seeing the behavior. So um that is where like the openness matters so much, because if you try the same thing expecting different outcomes, it's never gonna work.
No.
So that was my mentality from the get-go.
So now you've done two different forms of motorsports, right? So you've done endurance in a GT car with stuff like TC and ABS and whatever, and then now you've gone and done something in my wheelhouse, the Formula cars, which are in a sprint racing environment as well. What were the main things that applied and didn't apply as you switch between the cars?
Everything applied, I think. Absolutely everything. um the way the limit is reached, the way the car behaves on the limit might be a little bit different. The BRZ was a lot more under steery because of the ABS on the front tires, but it's just because of that specific car that had an ABS that had like brake bias that was much forward. But I think the concept was the same. It's always the same thing, but at different speeds. The timing is
Yeah,
different. The inertia is a little bit different,
but the physics
but
are the
the
same.
physics are exactly the same.
Yeah.
The wind pushing the car down is the same. The weight shifts forward when you brake is the same. There are some slight variations, but if you understand the main structure, I think is the same thing. I think the Formula car was um easier to drive because it's easier to feel. Like the
Yeah.
GT car is soft. It's like bouncy. Even though we had like a pretty stiff suspension, we could feel the car a lot more. It was still much softer. You had to like wait for that delay, and you have to like dance with the
You
car
have
in
to
a different.
react to it a little bit.
Yeah, you're dancing a slower dance
Yeah.
with the car, and with the Formula, it's like precise movements. So I think that's the biggest difference. You just have to be a lot more. The delay. It's like there's lag in the GT car, and there's no lag at all in the Formula car.
Yeah, I think that the problem with that though is like what's great about the BRZ is like you can see the problems in real time. And what happens like with the faster you go in like formula cars, like especially when downforce is added on, it starts masking those problems because mistakes are happening. So like such a small little mistake, it makes such a big difference. But sometimes it's not even feelable, especially to an inexperienced driver. So you end up not even realizing it. And it's one of those things where if you don't iron out the problems, like in a mechanically driven car, like an F4 car, and then you go and jump to an F3 or something with downforce, and then all of a sudden that problem's there forever. And it's actually one of the coaches that coaches a lot of the F1 drivers. He coaches them in a Vauxhall Corsa. And the reason why, and he still to this day, he's been doing it for decades in a Vauxhall Corsa, right? Front wheel drive, manual, nothing special. It's literally straight from the dealership. And he does it because like he's like you can see everything that's wrong with the driver's technique. And he's like I don't care if they're an F1 driver and they're driving some super advanced like computer. It applies, and you'll see the bad habits instantaneously in this car. And so that's one of those things where it's like I think drivers should perfect their craft at whatever they're driving first before ever moving to another car, because whatever issues you didn't solve in the current car are going to show up in the next car.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, especially because um the forgiveness of a fast car like a Formula, like even the Formula 4 is already it's still very forgiving. But I the oversteering moments that I had in the Formula 4 car, if I had that in a Formula 3, I would have probably crashed
Mhm.
because of the amount of downforce and how quick these movements happen to a point where like human reaction is just not enough. If you make a bad mistake, you're going to the wall right away. So I think that was very important for me. Like if I ever get to test a Formula 3 car, having this experience with Formula 4 is probably gonna be like essential before.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Was there anything that you came away from this past weekend in that F4 car that you were like, I haven't figured that out yet. That's what I need to work on. If I'm in the car again, that's the first thing I'm doing in the first practice session.
I think um I don't know yet because I've driven two cars in real life. So I have two references, but I believe there must be 50 different ways a real car has to be driven because
Mm.
there are so many different factors. Like you change one little thing, you change, I don't know, the brakes, or you change the tire compound on a car, and then suddenly it wants to be driven in a totally different way.
Yeah.
And I don't have a diverse enough vocabulary for real life behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
I know that like when you get on the limit under braking, in one car that limit might cause understeer, or on a different car it might cause oversteer. But like, okay, what about like, but does that happen mid corner, like halfway on entry, or early entry? I don't know yet. I have to test. So there's a lot of testing involved. I think again, it always comes back to the openness. You have to test. There is one thing that you have to never you cannot ever forget is like under shear first. Try to have more weight on the back first, so you can safely feel a little bit of the limit on the front tires, and then you start moving that weight. Actually, you start moving that weight a little bit more to
Mm-hmm.
the fronts mid corner to feel the car pointing more. That way it feels much safer to get to a point where the car starts to slide the four tires without snapping.
Yeah.
So I think that is always going to be my approach. Um, Especially because the Formula 4 that I drove was very oversteery, and it took me actually some laps, maybe 8 to 10 laps, until I actually got a bad snap. But I got it safely. I did not, I never spun. I drove this car probably for 2 or 3 hours over the weekend, over like 8 to 10 sessions. I never had a spin. I did lose the rear sometimes, but I lost them. I lost the rear like in a controllable way because I was approaching that progressively.
Yeah.
So, and still it was scary. Still, it was very scary to lose the rear at 180 per hour
Kilometers.
kilometers.
Yeah.
Yeah, kilometers.
Still moving.
It was moving, man.
Yeah, in the kink down in at Homestead, right?
Exactly. So
Coming off the
I
banking.
basically hit the the change in elevation from the oval
Yeah.
to the infield.
It's nasty.
As soon as I hit that, the car threw it, and I did one correction, didn't work, and then I increased the angle, didn't work, and then I saw myself like almost doing a 180-degree correction, and then it came back. As soon as it came back, I pulled it back very quickly to not snap to the right.
Yeah.
And then the way I'm describing it looks like it took 3 seconds, but when you see the video, everything
Yeah,
like
it's
those three corrections,
2/10 of a second, probably.
they happened
right?
in like 2-3 tenths of a second.
Yeah.
That was insane.
It's crazy. It's crazy when like what happens to your brain when you're in like it's literally like a fight or flight response, right? Like you don't. There's no thought process.
Time stops.
Yeah.
Time
just happens.
stops. Exactly.
Full pure instinct.
It's insane. And what helped me in that situation, for example, is that okay? I'm gonna be very technical right now. I created the light hands technique
Okay.
term that.
Oh yeah, you told me about this a little bit when you coached me because I
Yeah,
had this
yeah.
issue. Yeah.
So like the light hands technique base, I divided it into two things, like passive counter steer or active counter steer. So active counter steer is you're oversteering and you're oversteering and you actively pull the wheel. So you're creating an input to correct it.
Okay.
And that is necessary in a car that has power steering. Because with the power steering, the wheels it's like light, so if you don't take action, you just spin. But with a car that does not have power steering, just the forces from the front tires already will want to pull the wheel back. So if you relax your hands and you lose the rear here, the wheel already wants to come back by itself. If you just drop your hands, the wheel will counter steer itself. So that's what I call passive counter steer.
Okay.
In a situation where you're driving a Formula car so fast, human reaction is not enough. So what saved me in a situation like that is relaxing my hands and feeling that the steering wheel wants to do its thing. So that's why I was able to correct that. And I had a student there who had exactly the same situation at the same speed with the same car on the same corner, and he crashed into the wall. And I'm actually gonna post a short with the comparison. Like,
Yeah.
why did he crash? Why did
Yeah.
I not crash? Because he was death gripping the wheel.
Yeah.
And when that happened, when the oversteer happened, he was still holding the front tires to the left, and the passive counter steer was not able to correct the car. And then he got into the point of no return. Now that's 3/10 too late. Now he wants to turn with the active counter steer, but the car is already sliding too much, and then he goes to the wall.
Yeah.
So with the hands relaxed in testing, I just felt it happening. And sometimes you can even say, okay, it wasn't me, it was the car, but I allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
Because I had my hands relaxed. So these are the small little things that, and also that moment saving the car at that speed showed that the light hands technique works.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can definitely self-destruct in a race car if you don't know what you're doing. So,
100K.
testament to your abilities, I guess.
Exactly.
Well, Suellio, this has been a great conversation. I mean, it's just inspiring to hear your story and also all the parallels we have between, like, especially with the content creation stuff. It's not often I run into someone who's doing something similar, you know. So it's nice to be able to like resonate with someone on that. And I've learned a lot from you as well on so many different fronts. So really appreciate all your insight and coming on the podcast. And
Yeah, man.
all the best, man.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be in your podcast. I've seen
In your
you,
apartment.
yeah, in my apartment.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to. But I've seen your stuff like for a long time now, and it's always inspiring. Like I see, like you're pretty much my competition. Like like I'm watching you, and it's like, okay, so he's doing this and that. Like I have to improve my content because I remember the first time I saw your channel. I was biased to think that it was not good because I saw that it was competition. I remember you posting like formula videos and then talking about downforce versus low downforce and stuff. And I was biased to look at that and say, oh, he's got 70K and my videos are better. My videos should get more views and stuff. I had that first impression because it was competition. And then I realized, no, it's actually good. Remember to remove your ego. Like that's me telling to myself, you know, like remember to look to my own videos as if it's not me watching and see whatever I can improve. So that was huge inspiration. So yeah, good stuff, man. Big fan here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I love collaborating. So you're definitely going to see more of Suellio on the channel. He's already been on my channel a ton at this point. He's basically been in like every other video at this point. So yeah, I look forward to seeing more of him soon. But yeah, appreciate you coming on the pod.
Yeah. Looking forward to race with you tomorrow. So
yes. Oh, and karting. Yeah. So stay tuned for that. And with that being said, guys, see you on the next one. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. But before I let you go, there's a couple of updates to this podcast that I think you guys would find interesting if you enjoyed this podcast. This is probably terrible for the algorithm's point of view, but I may as well give you guys these updates. So first thing is, like, I've been traveling a lot recently making content for the main channel, but I've also been recording a ton of podcasts with some amazing guests. So I think if you enjoyed the episode with Suellio, you're going to really enjoy some of the other episodes we have coming out. I've traveled across the world to meet these people. The guests themselves are from literally all corners of the globe. So super, super excited to be bringing these episodes to you guys. So make sure you've got notifications turned on, you're subscribed, and follow me on Instagram as well, because that's usually where I do the updates when a podcast is about to go live. The other thing I want to let you know about is at the time we filmed this podcast with Suellio, he was working on a book about driving technique, about vehicle dynamics, and it's definitely been needed in the space. I mean, there have been books kind of published in that sort of realm over the years, but none that really hit the nail on the head. And I've gone through Suellio's course at length, and we've done some promotional stuff together before, and his stuff is top notch. So if he's coming out with a book, I know it's going to be the best damn book that's ever been brought out in this space before. So I thought I'd promote that because he didn't get a chance to do that on the podcast. So check out his website if you're interested. I'll put a link down in the description. And huge thanks to Suellio for hosting me at his house. Super, super kind of him. So with that all being said, I will see you guys on the next podcast. You're going to really like this guest. So stay tuned.